What are the four questions that most new real estate investors want answers to? Well, here they are. Number one is, where do I find these undervalued properties? Well, we're going to get into this a little bit, but that's really the wrong question. Number two, how do I fund these properties? Where do I get the money to buy them? Number three, how do I estimate the repairs necessary to get to an ARV? And number four is, what's my exit strategy? What am I going to do with it after I have bought it? And there's a lot of different things you can do depending on the purchase price that you have paid for that property. So let's go through these as methodically as I can and as quickly and as directly as possible. I'm not going to add a lot of fluff here. So number one, where do I find these properties? Well, the very first real question is, how do I recognize that the property that I'm looking at is something I should buy? Well, in order to know the answer to that, you really need to know the fundamental questions in terms of the numbers of how to evaluate a property. And I have a video up on that. It's called Real Estate 101, and also there's another one called Evaluating the Properties and What Are the Numbers. So go through that and determine that. So the very first thing is, how do I recognize a property? And then the other part to that question is, where do I find them? So where do I find them is, well, you either find them from other wholesalers, you start marketing for them, or you go to the MLS and you start doing your research that way. They're kind of all over the place. You can network for them. Now, I'm going to do another video on marketing in a few minutes, and that's going to cover how do you locate the properties. But the main point I wanted to bring up here is, it's not so much about where do you find them, because they're kind of all over the place. There's the foreclosure list, there's Zillow, there's Redfin, there's MLS, there's all the on-market stuff. There's wholesale property from other investors and wholesalers, people who don't really want to buy. They only want to create a contract and then sell their contract. And then there's investor realtors that you can get. Of course, there's all the marketing. You've got inbound marketing, you've got outbound marketing, and then you have online search engines, websites, SEO. So the marketing part and the where to find the properties can go quite deep. So learn how to evaluate first. And then once you do that, then you can start deciding whether you want to market. And when I say market, I mean outbound marketing, where you get callers to make outbound calls, or you do anything that is soliciting somebody to sell their house, or you want to do the kind of marketing that would create inbound calls, where you get people to call you that want to sell their house. All right, so that was question number one. So question number two is, how do I fund these properties? Now, the fundamental answer is going to be, it's about the numbers again. So you really need to review the real estate investing by the numbers. If you get a property that has the right numbers, the funding is not a problem. And I'm going to do that real quick here just so you have an idea. So investors go to hard money lenders. Really, they're equity lenders. They're asset-based lenders, and they look at the numbers. And the numbers are, what's the after repaired value of this property going to be after you spend the money to fix it. So suppose we have a house that's going to be worth $500,000. So they're going to take a number, usually it's 60 to 70% of that after repaired value. So let's just use 70. So 70 times 500 is $350,000. All right. That's their base number that they operate from on the lending perspective. So they'll lend you 70% of that 500,000. So they'll lend 350. So that's their base number right there. Now, then what happens is you're going to submit a list of things that need to be done to that property. Your contractor list, your renovation list. And suppose that's $100,000. So you need to spend $100,000 on this property the way it is right now to get it to an after repaired value of $500,000. So we're working this backwards. So you've got $350,000 as the base number minus $100,000 for your renovations. That leaves $250,000. So if you're a renovator and you're going to renovate this property, that's the most you can pay, period, right there. It's $250,000 for that house. But what if you're a wholesaler and you want to make $5 or $10 or $15 or $20,000 on the effort that you have put into this, the marketing, the negotiation skills, to bring all of this to the table and produce a piece of paper, a contract that has value to it. If you have a contract at $350,000 and that's the most that anybody can pay for that property, then you've added no value to the contract. And so your assignment fee will be zero. So you know, if you've added no value, then your fee is zero. So to add value, you need to have a contract that's less than that amount. So suppose you have a contract at $340,000 and you're selling it to a renovator who's going to renovate it, then you have a $10,000 assignment fee. So now your maximum price that you can write down on your contract would be $340,000. If you want to make $20,000, then it's $330,000 and so forth. All right. So that should have answered question number 2, the money. Okay, question number 3 is renovation. Now, there's a couple things. Now, we have at Real Estate 360 and Will Buy LLC a renovation Excel spreadsheet. So all you need to really know is what needs to be done and how much or how big is the house? What's the square footage of the house? Those are fairly easy to determine. And then we have like I said, an Excel spreadsheet. All you have to do is pick those things that need to be done, like a new roof and a new hot water heater or a new central heat and air system. And then you add the square footage in and it will produce the number. So you just put that in and it gives you a total. Or you can do it from experience, or you can do it from bringing a contractor out to give you a bid. And I recommend all of these things. Now, I don't even use the spreadsheet anymore. I just go look at it and I say, it's going to cost us $100,000 to do this house, or it's going to cost us 60 or 50. And that's based on my recent experience hiring contractors to go renovate houses, and it needed a roof, or it needed this, or it needed that. So that's how you determine your renovations cost. And finally, number 4 is, what's my exit strategy? Well, that's going to depend on the answer to number 2, which is what you actually have it under contract for. So let's use that same example, a $500,000 ARV house that has a $350,000 lender threshold on it and a $100,000 renovation list, so your purchase price is $250,000 or less. So if you have a $250,000 contract and you have one exit strategy, well, you have two. You can sell that off to somebody for zero and make no money, or you can renovate the house and sell it for $350,000 and potentially make, $50,000 or $100,000 on it. That's your exit strategy. That's the only option you have. Really, you have one option there if you want to make money. If you get it for less than that, let me go back. You have two options. You can fix it and rent it potentially and make a positive cash flow. You'll have to go back and look at your average rents for that particular house, and then what the interest rates and what your mortgage payments are going to be, and then what your insurances are going to cost, and what your ongoing management and maintenance and utilities might be on that properties, including HOA fees and so forth. There's a lot, to determine there. So you might have two exit strategies, which is buy it, fix it, and rent it, or buy it, fix it, and sell it. So anything below that, now you can add exit strategies. So when I say below that, I mean below that $250,000 purchase number. So if you're at 230 or 240, then you can wholesale it off. So that gives you the other option. That's it. That's pretty much it. Those are the questions that need to be answered. And those are the questions that new real estate investors come to me and say, well, what are the answers to these questions? As you can see, they're not simple answers. They're in depth, and I have only scratched the surface with this video. But I think it was helpful, or I hope it was helpful for you. And there are links in the description below for the things that I mentioned in the video. And there's things like, success in your first 30 days. How do you get started? There's a link for that. There's a link for the ebook, and there's a link for the training as well. So I hope you enjoyed this.